Let us now enter the spirit of worship. In these times in which the ground feels shaky and our hands and feet unsteady, we turn to you, O source of strength, spirit of compassion, for we do not know what the future truly holds. We can never know, and we need strength in these times of uncertainty. We need the strength and fortitude to hold on, to see clearly, to reach out in love. May we find guidance within ourselves and beyond ourselves. May we be restless for truth when truth is cast aside. May we be seekers of peace as the drumbeats of war grow louder around us. May we hear and sound the alarm for our planet as fires rage and ravage. And in all this, may love rule our hearts. May we know the source of love within us and stay grounded in that source. As we grieve, as we grapple with the unknown, as we work toward creating a more just, peaceful, and sustainable present and future together. So may it be. Amen. And now, time for the offering. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit or an awkward moment. It is an opportunity to recommit to this place and to these people. When we commit to our work here, we say yes to something we value. With our offerings today, may we say yes to the values of this church. We'll take the offering now. And now from Zoom, we're going to have Betsy Young Buck, share a reading from Clarissa Pinkola Estes.
Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. Any small, calm thing that one soul can do to help another soul, to assist some portion of this poor, suffering world, will help immensely. It is not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts. Adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, second, or 100th gale.
And now for the sermon component of our service. This is going to be an excerpt from a sermon so that we have some time to turn and talk amongst ourselves. I wanted to have both pieces as part of the service today. The sermon is by Reverend Karen, who actually serves not that far away from here at First Parish in Brewster on Cape Cod. She recently served as the interim minister of the UU Fellowship in Vero Beach, Florida. She received her Master's of Divinity from Union Theological Seminary at Columbia University. Reverend Karen is an artist and a published author of meditations and essays. In 2011, she was chosen alongside her husband, Reverend Scott Taylor, to preach at the Sunday morning worship at General Assembly. She and Scott have 3 adult children, a dog, a cat, and a horse farm in upstate New York. And Peter Melanie will be reading the excerpt from her sermon.
Good morning. You see, it turns out that the one thing all rescuers have in common, who exemplified exceptional moral conduct, who did what was right, was not a common character trait, but instead a proximity to suffering firsthand. One common factor, Errol Press writes, what ultimately determines moral conduct are not character traits, personal beliefs, or political attitude, but situational factors. The social justice psychologist Stanley Milgram, who worked at Yale in the 1960s, did a whole bunch of work around this, and he concluded that a person's proximity to harm or suffering always directly correlated to how responsible they felt to alleviate the suffering before them. I didn't always think that's easy. 15 years ago, I brought a group of teenagers from the church I was serving in at the time with me to Mexico, to Matamoros or Reynosa with New York State Labor Religion Coalition. We had gone to 2 border towns to see ostensibly what the effects of NAFTA were on third world countries in person. We met with workers in their homes that were often built with pallets and scrap metal and cardboard homes. They had no locks, no running water, no latrine, no electricity, dirt floors. Homes that when we visited them, they raked their dirt in their 12-foot front lawn of all sorts of debris. They repeatedly commented on what an honor they felt by being able to talk to their northern sisters and brothers. At one home, I distinctly remember a 3.5 gallon buckets turned upside down, where a 2x8 board was put over the top to make a makeshift bench so we could be comfortable while they stood and talked to us. And upon that board were 2 immaculate white hand towels with poinsettia patterns. I can still see it in my head. The towels were the only immaculate piece of cloth for miles, and which they insisted we sit on. For 6 days we listened to stories. Most of the workers made $6 a day by working for American companies that had moved their factory across the Rio Grande to reap the benefits of cheap labor. Already many of the factories were leaving Mexico to various points in Asia for an even cheaper labor. It became increasingly clear that 2 working parents couldn't make ends meet. At one point on the trip, they said, "We are going to take you to the grocery store with the equivalent of what 2 adults working 6 a day could afford. So we went looking for the items on our list, calculating the cost, given the amount of money we had to spend. And well, after an hour, we were woefully insufficient. You could get rice and beans and oil, but you could not have enough money to buy cornmeal for tortillas. There was nothing left over for clean water or toilet paper. Most parents had to send their kids to work at 6th grade because you had to start paying for school at that age anyway. So when you can't buy toilet paper, what misses out? Certainly not an education. There were 11-year-olds bagging our groceries for tips as we went through the checkout line. The point I'm trying to make is this. We have had proximity in my life numerous times. This is possibly the most striking example, but it doesn't have to be a foreign visit to witness and experience suffering. But this experience was years ago now, and in that time, there have been new labor laws and immigration rights and for farm workers that I've wanted to stay on top of. But I have found the further my proximity gets in time, the farther I get from real relational closeness to those suffering from the injustice, I start forgetting. Not entirely, but I start forgetting what that first-hand experience feels like in my gut. If you were there, you would have felt like I did. That is sheer luck. Luck that the squalor and abject poverty and diminishing future wasn't the cards that were dealt to me. That's it. It's all freaking luck. And it is in proximity that your gut kicks in and you see the person standing in front of you as their needs being your needs. That was years ago now, and I'm in need of, well, that kind of gut-moving, personal, relational, close-up experience more often. I would submit we probably all could use a bit more of this because real change needs getting close, allowing the pain of others to alter you, to be in relationship with people, to activate your empathy, and then committed action arises. Get informed, my friends, but before you get going, get close. May proximity save us all. May it be so. Amen.